Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they were taught to obey. Since childhood, you've been rewarded for staying quiet, waiting your turn, and doing what you're told. But the people who rise, who actually build wealth, follow a different script. They don't wait for permission. They don't ask to be chosen. They learn how power works, then use it to build freedom. That's what this video is about. Not hacks or shortcuts, but a mindset shift that separates the top 1% from everyone else. You're watching The Passive Path, and this might be the last video you need before you stop living like a follower. Ask yourself this: if there are millions of soldiers in an empire, why do they obey one emperor? If there are hundreds of employees in a company, why do they listen to one CEO? Why does one teacher silence 30 students with a single glance? It's not strength, it's structure, it's power, not physical force, but perceived authority. In ancient times, a king didn't need to fight every battle. He only needed people to believe he could order one. That belief was enough to keep everyone in line. This still applies today. You don't need to be the smartest, the richest, or the strongest. You need to understand the rules of control. And once you do, you get to play a different game, a better game. One where you stop asking and start leading. One where you stop working for money and start making money work for you. That's what we teach on The Passive Path. So keep going, because what you'll learn next will flip everything you thought you knew about leadership and wealth. Do you like this personality? Let's start with why good people stay broke. Most were raised to be obedient, not powerful. They were told to be nice, follow rules, get good grades. That works in school. It fails in the real world. Out here, rewards don't go to the most polite. They go to the ones who understand leverage. You were trained to listen, not to lead, to wait, not to act, to ask, not to claim. That's why so many honest, hardworking people end up stuck, trapped in debt, dependent on a paycheck, afraid to say no, afraid to stand out, afraid to risk being disliked. The power doesn't come from being agreeable. It comes from being clear, clear about what you want, clear about what you won't tolerate, clear about who you are. Take a look at any high performer you admire. They're not nice all the time. They're not soft. They don't fold under pressure. They make decisions and stand by them. They draw lines and defend them. They are trying to be loved by everyone. Because they know trying to be liked by everyone is the fastest way to be respected by no one. Ask yourself this: have you ever bent over backwards to help someone who didn't value it? Have you ever given and given, hoping they'd appreciate you, only to be ignored? That's not loyalty. That's weakness being mistaken for kindness. And it's why boundaries matter. Let's be honest. The people who win long-term aren't always the sweetest. They're the ones who know when to say enough. No more giving away your time. No more selling your peace. No more waiting for someone else to choose you. Start choosing yourself, because the world is not fair. It never was. But when you stop pretending it is, you finally start playing to win. Now let's talk about power. Real power. Not the fake kind people post online. The kind that makes others stop and listen, even when you say nothing. Ask yourself this: why do thousands follow one leader? Why does one signature move billions of dollars? Why does one voice shape the actions of millions? It's not luck. It's not charisma. It's control. The emperor in ancient times didn't have more muscles than his army. He had more leverage. He didn't need to fight. He needed people to believe in the consequences of disobedience. That belief became law. Fast forward to now. Modern power still works the same. You see it in CEOs, in politicians, in influencers, with armies of followers. They don't control with brute force. They control with presence. They make decisions others are afraid to make. They create rules others follow. And they don't waste energy trying to be understood, because power isn't about being liked. It's about being listened to. It's about setting direction and letting others choose whether to follow. You don't need to dominate to lead, but you do need clarity. You need standards. You need conviction. The moment you let others walk all over your time, your money, your peace, you've lost it. Not all power looks loud. Some of it is silent, but unmistakable, like a teacher who can silence a room without raising their voice, or a founder who can inspire action without micromanaging. That's the kind of power that lasts. So don't chase applause, build presence. You don't need to prove yourself to people who wouldn't follow you anyway. You need to build something worth following. Because respect doesn't come from trying harder, it comes from standing taller. So don't chase applause, build presence. You don't need to prove yourself to people who wouldn't follow you anyway. You need to build something worth following. Because respect doesn't come from trying harder. It comes from standing taller. Leadership comes with a price. The higher you rise, the lonelier it gets. Not because people disappear, but because understanding does. Most people won't get your drive. They won't get your sacrifices. They won't get why you choose pressure over comfort, and that's fine. They're not supposed to. Real leadership starts when you stop needing approval, when you stop waiting for someone to tell you it's okay. When you act without permission, that's what separates a boss from a builder, a manager from a founder, a follower from a force. Look at history. Leaders weren't surrounded by friends. They were surrounded by decisions, hard ones, unpopular ones, ones that risked everything for a greater goal. Washington didn't win respect by being everyone's buddy. He won it by doing what others feared. He made moves when others hesitated. That's the burden of leadership. You have to think long-term while others live day to day. You have to hold the vision when no one else believes. You have to keep walking when no one claps. If you're addicted to approval, leadership will break you. Because being liked and being trusted are not the same. Your friends might like you, but will they follow you? Your coworkers might laugh at your jokes, but will they sacrifice for your mission? You can be liked, or you can be respected. Rarely both. This is why many great leaders keep their circle small, not because they hate people, but because they've learned that peace is expensive, and not everyone is worth the cost. You don't need a crowd. You need clarity. You don't need to be surrounded. You need to be solid. So build yourself, then build your vision. Let others catch up, or stay behind. Now let's be clear about something. Nice leaders finish last, not because kindness is weak, but because most people abuse it. When a leader tries to please everyone, they lose direction. They trade respect for approval. And once that happens, chaos follows. A company with no boundaries becomes a daycare. A family with no standards becomes unstable. A relationship with no rules becomes manipulation. Let's break this down. If you always give your team what they want, they'll stop valuing your word. If you never say no, your yes becomes meaningless. If you try to be everyone's friend, you'll become no one's leader. This is how empires collapse from within. It starts with a desire to be loved and ends with no one taking you seriously. That's the trap. You think being softer will build trust, but it only builds entitlement. The best leaders aren't harsh, they're firm. They set expectations, they enforce consequences, they reward performance, and they don't negotiate respect. Look at Jack Ma. He didn't build Alibaba by being everyone's buddy. He built it by setting vision, attracting talent, and holding the line. He wasn't the best coder. He wasn't the smartest in the room, but he knew how to lead people. Same with Steve Jobs. He wasn't warm. He wasn't always kind. But people followed him because he demanded excellence. Because he believed in what he was building more than he believed in being liked. Ask yourself this: do you want to be liked? Or do you want to build something that lasts? If it's the second, start acting like it. Stop giving in to pressure. Stop lowering your standards. Start expecting more from others and more from yourself. Because weak leadership builds resentment. Strong leadership builds loyalty. Let's talk about building power from the ground up. Because no one hands you influence. You take it. But first, you need leverage. Your leverage comes from one thing: your edge. Not your resume, not your followers, your edge. That one thing you do better, faster, or deeper than most people. It doesn't have to be flashy. It just has to be real. Maybe you write better copy. Maybe you sell with more empathy. Maybe you solve problems others ignore. Whatever it is, own it. Use it, because that's your starting point. Once you have that, stop trying to blend in. Fitting in is a trap. You weren't born to be a replica. You were born to lead, and leaders are different by definition. Most people want safety. Leaders want results. Most people want acceptance. Leaders want impact. Now take that edge and start something. Anything. A service, a product, a platform. Start small, but start, because action builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Don't try to do it all yourself. Build systems, hire help, automate where you can, because your time is your power, and power gets diluted when you chase every task. You don't get rich by working harder. You get rich by working smarter, by building machines that work when you sleep, by creating value people pay for even when you're offline. That's the heart of the passive path. Freedom through ownership. Not effort loops, not endless hustle. Ownership. That's what changes lives. Not just yours, but the people you lead, serve, and inspire. Power doesn't just show up at work. It shows up at home, in your relationships, in your boundaries, in what you tolerate. If you give too much without limits, people stop appreciating you, not because they're bad, but because you've trained them that your value is free. Love without respect turns into obligation. Respect without boundaries turns into resentment. That's why overgiving kills connection. In business, in marriage, in friendship. If someone always knows you'll say yes, your no becomes meaningless. And when your no means nothing, your yes means nothing too. You teach people how to treat you. If you allow disrespect, you'll keep getting it. If you set clear lines, people learn to stay within them. Think about the strongest relationships you've seen. They're not built on constant giving. They're built on clarity. on earned trust, on mutual effort. It's the same in leadership, and it's the same in love. You don't have to be harsh. You just have to be consistent. If someone violates your standards, there must be consequences. Otherwise, your standards are just suggestions, and suggestions get ignored. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop tolerating disrespect in the name of care. People respect strength more than softness, especially when that strength is fair. If you want loyalty, draw the line. If you want trust, enforce it. Because without boundaries, even love turns to burden. It all comes down to one final shift, the one that changes everything. You have to stop playing victim. You have to stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You have to stop blaming the world for not treating you fair. No one's coming. That's your power. Because once you accept that, you stop asking for permission. You stop begging for support. You start moving. You start building. You start thinking in terms of cause and effect, not hope and luck. That's when life changes. Not when you read more books, not when you get more motivation, but when you take full responsibility. And you do it without complaining. If you don't like your income, build new skills. If you don't like your job, start a side project. If you don't like your habits, change your inputs. Stop scrolling advice. Start applying it. Every hour you spend trying to save someone who won't save themselves is an hour you stole from your future. Let go of the fantasy that you can fix people. Fix your mindset. Fix your income. Fix your patterns. Then help those who want to be helped. Your job isn't to please everyone. It's to build a life that aligns with your values and protect it. Because when you protect your time, your energy, and your standards, your money follows. So get clear, get firm, and get moving. You weren't meant to live stuck. You weren't meant to stay broke. You weren't meant to obey weak systems forever. You were meant to own your time, own your voice, own your future. That's the passive path. Subscribe, stay sharp, and start building. If this video made you think differently, it's doing its job. The goal isn't to impress you, it's to wake you up. Because freedom doesn't happen by chance, it happens by choice. And if you've watched this far, you're ready to choose better. Better boundaries, better habits, better leverage. That's the heart of the passive path. So if something here resonated, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment and share this with someone you care about, someone who needs to hear it. Wishing you strength, clarity, and real freedom on your journey. Feel free to check out the other videos on the channel for more. And I'll see you in the next one.